Doug, I want to bring you back in. Doug Flynn, of course, joining me, co-founder of Flynn Zito Capital Management, to talk these markets. Doug, this would seem as if it might be a positive for the overall stock market tomorrow, that Netflix is catching some momentum after hours. What do you think?
I agree. I think, one of the things you want to focus on in a slightly weaker economy is cash flow generation and pricing power. Those are the things that you look for in individual securities that you want to own during a weaker time. And so they're kind of doing that. They're continuing the cash flow generation by not losing as many people, and now they're turning around to a positive. But it also speaks to the fact that what they've done and what other people have done is sort of set a lower expectation, so that if they come in above that, we're expecting to lose 2 million, we lose less than 1 million. Wow, that's fantastic. And you get the pop. And so some of that's going to start to happen more and more as we work our way through this. But I think it does bode well. And it is in the interest of, when you're looking at good companies in the long run, some of the things that you want to look for, especially as people spend down that little bit of extra cash they still have hanging around. Eventually, they're going to spend it all. And then what? So is this one of the things that they hang on to a little bit longer?
Another question that I have, Doug, is this company, too, just like we saw Johnson & Johnson note, IBM note as well, a higher U.S. dollar as a multinational company impacting some of its forecasts. What might this portend about the state of corporate America and more results that we see as this earnings season does start to pick up a bit of steam?
It depends how much they're going to sort of accept the decrease in return that they're going to get overseas as the dollar continues to be strong and the foreign dollar is weak relative to it. So perhaps they'll absorb some of that if they have excess margins. A lot of firms make higher margins overseas than they do in the U.S. So there's a little bit more room there. But obviously, to a point, they're going to have to adjust if the dollar stays this strong. In certain industries, not necessarily streaming, but in other ones, it is going to put a lot of pressure on the earnings, which is always the key indicator, what you want to look at long term. And you have to see how they manage it. Are they managing it with some futures and other things to offset that? Are they hedging it? Or can they accept some of it? Or do they do some things that now offset it? In the long run, if it stays that way for a very long period of time, you're going to find some companies do some things overseas that they would have been doing in the U.S. otherwise.
I'm just curious, Doug, as we talk about winners and losers, how companies might fare in a potential recessionary environment. Certainly, we're in an economic slowdown as prices rise, but do you think that streaming services can hold up in an economic slowdown and potentially a recession?
I think, what's happened to most people is if they've cut the cord and they've ditched cable and they were spending $200 a month, now they have 5 or 6 independent streaming services, and you add it all up and maybe you're saving a little bit of money, but not as much as you might want to. So I think some of them go by the wayside. At some point, do you keep all of them? It's already, as you know, the first question is, okay, hey, give me a suggestion for something to watch. And then the second question is, well, what platform is it on? It's like you have to know both of those things to find anything these days. And so at some point, people are like, I just don't have that anymore. And I do think that some things do go by the wayside. Nobody has an unlimited amount of cash to buy everything they want in life. Right. And something's going to get squeezed. And there's a lot of cash that's going to work its way through because we've put so much cash out there. But eventually, that's why I think people haven't really acted too much with their dollars and held back as much as they will when those dollars run out and there's no more to get unless you get out there and work and do the things you have to do.
All right, Doug Flynn, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining. Doug's the co-founder of Flynn Zito Capital Management.